Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and spring break is over, and it's on to a new chapter in my life. This one is called Asking for Help, and it's so strange. This whole intro is going to be about the GoFundMe that we created. And we created the GoFundMe because so many of you have asked how you could help us in this difficult time, and you've been asking for 2.5 years, and we've always been like, no, we've got this, no, we've got this, and that's been our mindset for a long, long time. We've said pretty much no to everything but some meals over the years of chemo, radiation, surgeries, pain, and sadness. But now, when people ask how can we help, we have an answer. We have a GoFundMe, and it is so weird starting one because it feels like begging for money. I mean, Sherry McConkey and Angie's best friend, Caitlin Wade, have been encouraging us to do one of these things for a while. And they said they would start it whenever we wanted to do it. And we've had that in the back of our minds for about a year. And after our last 18-day stint in the hospital, Angie and I both were like, yeah, we should do this. And Caitlin and Sherry ran with it, and we are live. And a day into the GoFundMe, we're doing really well. But it does feel awkward taking money from friends, relatives, and strangers. I almost feel guilty or tacky for doing it because I want to think that there are people who have it worse than Ange in my family. But then I think about it and no one has it worse than Ange. I live with it and I'm going to spare you the details. But we sure are feeling the love and we appreciate every donation and share. So thank you very much. If you want to check out the GoFundMe page, all the info around it is on my Instagram and Facebook profiles, and there's no pressure whatsoever to donate. I realize these aren't easy times for anyone. But donation or not, I want to give you a little update on where we are. After searching for many second and third opinions over the past couple weeks, we are moving on to Fred Hutch in Seattle for a surgery next week. We're being fast-tracked into things because of the urgency, and that's both exciting and scary. And when things get scary like this, I used to want to smoke a big fat spliff so I didn't have to remember the reality of what was going on in my life. But I don't smoke spliffs anymore, and I'm trying to transition this into the 420 episode, and that's how I'm going to do it, because it is 420 week, and the guest plan for this week came up months ago when a PR firm reached out to me about a pro snowboarder turned cannabis entrepreneur, a guy named Charlie Hoch. He was a skateboarder who lived in Florida, then he moved to Colorado, and he became hooked on snow. He was able to cobble together a dirtbag pro snowboard career, and when that ended, he transitioned into making ice weed bongs on his way to building a cannabis empire. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to tell a friend about the show. It really does help things grow. I also want to ask you to please review me wherever you listen. And finally, please support the incredible brands that make this podcast happen. They are Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, and Stanley. Now, it's time to talk with cannabis entrepreneur Charlie Hoch. This episode is interesting because you had a PR group reach out to me, or your PR team reached out to me months ago, probably 6 months ago, and they were like, would you like to interview former pro snowboarder turned cannabis entrepreneur Charlie Hoch? And at first I was like, who? And no, I don't know. That's not really my show. But then I was like, actually, this would be perfect for a 420 episode. And here we are. It's not 420 yet, but what are your plans for 420?
I am actually going to be traveling to Africa. I'll be landing in South Africa on 420. So my April 20th will be a little bit different this year.
So what are you doing in South Africa?
I'm taking my dad on his dream safari is what I'm doing. A big bucket list trip.
That is so sick, man. That's got to be an awesome thing. Are you bringing your brother as well?
Yeah, actually. All three of us are going. It's going to be pretty cool.
So you've been thinking about your dad for decades and you to be able to do this for your dad for a long time. So this is like one of the most exciting things that you've ever had going and you're skipping 420 for it?
Honestly, I made the decision a few years back to take my mom to Italy because she's 100% Italian. She grew up in New York, but her whole family's Italian. She never thought she'd go. And I took her on a trip to Italy. We toured all over, just the two of us. It was like the best thing I ever did. And so I knew I wanted to do something similar for my pops. And so this is what we're going to do. He's always talked about going to Africa, so we're going to go check it out.
All right. Well, I've been to Africa. It's amazing. I was actually not there for long. I was there for like 8 hours, and really don't ask me about Africa. We don't need to talk about that. We're going to talk about 420. And being that you are in the weed business, you've been in there for over a decade. What is the most wild or extravagant 420 celebration you've ever seen or been a part of?
Good question, Mike. I mean, I'm in the industry, but I wouldn't say that I'm in the weed business.
No, I guess it's split down the middle. You're hard goods and the mountains are soft goods. So like, Whistler is your weed and you're selling the tool that you need to smoke the weed. But it's still part of the industry, right? It's still, it's not all about margins and growth, right? It's about weed as well.
No, 100%. But there is a difference between the cannabis space and where the dispensaries really operate and, the head shop space and where the hard goods kind of are sold and exist. But the craziest, I think back to the high school days as far as the craziest cannabis experiences of my life, to be honest. Those wild 2-story bongs that were in house parties that were, you're on the second story and some of those days. But yeah, man. How about you, Mike?
420? Well, actually, the craziest, you asked me. My wife and I, about 7 years ago, we were going to the weed store because they weren't alpacas, but they had something like some kind of wallaby or something like that. I'm like, holy shit, babe, they've got wallabies at this weed store. We're going to go. So we get in the car. We go through this place called White Center, which is kind of a bad place in the Seattle area. Not really bad, though, because it's Seattle. But either way, we're in the car. And as my wife's driving down the road, a dude coming at us gets out of his car, like through a window, pulls a gun out and drive-by shoots like a guy going next to us, doesn't hit him, and we didn't end up going to the weed store. But that was my best 420 story. So this is not all about me, so we'll get back into you. And I would think your affinity for cannabis and the industry and everything starts in Colorado. It sounds like you said there were some banner days in high school with 10-foot bongs and shit like that. But how far did you grow up from Wolf Creek?
I grew up in Pagosa Springs, so just down the pass. So, about 30 minutes or so up to Wolfie.
And is that the home mountain and you're pretty much one of the local mountain kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the home mountain. I mean, we held the claim for most snow in Colorado, which I believe they still do. But, there's just Wolf Creek's just a special little spot. It's not the biggest, steepest mountain, but the snow is good and the people are good and it's a great place to be on a POW day.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Colorado for a couple of years in one of the Disneyland resorts, but it seemed like it was the place to go early season because you got way more snow than everybody else and you guys had POW days before anybody else did, but it was in like the middle of nowhere.
Well, I don't really consider it the middle of nowhere. I guess when you're coming down from Denver, yeah, I-70 loves to come down to Wolf Creek early season. It's pretty consistent like that, but, it's good mid-season, too. It's a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, imagine.
The Southern San Juans are fantastic.
Do you come from a snow-focused family? Like, do you live where you live because your parents like to ski?
No, not really. I mean, my folks love to ski, and, we spend time as a family up on the mountain. But no, I wouldn't say it's like that. I mean, honestly, I grew up in South Florida. Skateboarding I didn't move to Pagosa until I was about 13, 14. And so I grew up in the streets, man, skating every day. And I was kind of pissed when we were going to be moving out to Colorado, to be honest, because I was like, where the hell am I going to skate? But then I kind of had this epiphany of oh, wow, I can hit huge handrails on my snowboard that I couldn't ever hit on my skateboard. And that kind of opened up my brain to a whole new world. And to be honest, when I really fell in love with snowboarding I was up at Wolf Creek and I was following around this dude. His name's Jeremiah. He was the first person I ever met in Pagosa when I was a kid and moved out, skate park actually. And I was following him on his heels up at Wolf Creek, and he kind of blew my mind with how he was riding the mountain and charging the mountain and just sending cliffs, and everything really changed from there. Just to kind of tie cannabis in with snowboarding here. So Jeremiah has an incredible cabin at 12,000 feet, his family does.
Okay.
Up on Red Mountain Pass. And so the first time I'd ever rode a snow, he had invited me up to the family cabin. We went up there in the dark. It was early morning. We all got up early, hopped on the sleds. It was sunrise. They took us to the top. We took the sleds up to about 13,000 feet. It was the first time I'd ever worn a beacon. I mean, it was first time in the backcountry. His dad was ex-ski patrollers. And I'll never forget sitting there, watching the sunrise over the San Juan Mountains and smoking a bowl and dropping into a backcountry run, and my life was basically never the same. I pretty much pursued snowboarding from that point forward for the next 15 years, through my whole 20s. I mean, it just changed everything for me.
How old were you when that guy's dad took you out there and smoked weed with you?
Well, I wasn't with his dad.
Okay.
They took us to the top and we, did our thing. But I was like 18.
Okay. I was like, man, this
Yeah.
guy's a ski patroller. He's taking a 13-year-old up there. That's pretty crazy. Speaking of being 13.
No.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. But speaking of being 13-year-old in a mountain town, I mean, mountain towns are known for having weed. And I mean, I would think that you're smelling it everywhere. Florida as well. So was this something that you kind of just grew up with?
I mean, I would say like anybody else. I mean, I think cannabis is around. No different than beer or anything else at a party.
No, it's not different at all. But when you live in the mountains, you're going to see a bunch of different things. You're going to see the dude who loves to drink beer crack one on the lift at 8 a.m. And you're like, Jesus Christ. But you're going to see a ton of different people smoking bowls on the lift. So is it kind of like it was illegal back then, but it was no big deal?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, I would say.
But it's not all about partying and stuff at Wolf Creek. That place, like we said, it was known for early season powder. But when you think of Wolf Creek, did you grow up riding with the owner's kid?
Yeah, I mean, I went to high school with Keith, but he's a little bit younger than me, but still good friends with Keith.
So it feels really small, like you know the owner's family. And does that give you any special privileges there? Are you guys always there just getting into different stuff? Or what was life like at Wolf Creek?
No, not really. I mean, I remember one time that they got an old like T-bar style chair there that they never run. And I remember one time we got to go up early season and he turned it on just for us and Keith's friends. But no, not really. I mean, it's a family mountain, but it's professionally run. And no, I wouldn't say that we had really any special privileges like that. We were just friends. He was a skier and we just shredded. It was never really about getting special treatment. Yeah.
No, but I mean, sometimes if you're hanging with the owner's kid and he's like, hey, dude, I think you're going to open the chair early like they did with the T-bar, you get that experience. It sounds like you had that experience.
Yeah, not too much though. Yeah.
When thinking about skateboarding, like your skateboard style, it's handrails. I saw some of the clips in one of your videos from like 2006, and it's a lot of street skateboarding. It's all done in Florida. When you get to Colorado, you're saying that you can do huge rails on your snowboard, but Wolf Creek doesn't seem like that kind of place. Was it really big park kind of stuff, or were you looking for more big mountain features and kind of the riding style that you became known for later on?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. No, I mean, Wolf Creek doesn't have a park. So as far as hitting handrails and stuff, that was in the streets. There's good about an urban in Durango, which is about an hour away from Pagosa. And I mean, there was quality stuff that you could find. But as far as, Wolf Creek goes, I mean, no, it was more about finding unique terrain, finding unique lines. And I spent a lot of time in the Silverton area too. As far as Colorado goes, I spent a lot of time on Red Mountain Pass and a lot of time in the Silverton region there. Yeah.
Did you get to take helicopters at Silverton and do the whole deal?
Yeah, I've done helicopter. I've done heli at Silverton. I've done quite a bit of heli time. Canada and Alaska. I've been lucky enough to spend a good amount of time in the bird.
Cool.
For sure.
By the time you graduate high school, was it like skate and snow that pretty much defines who you were, or were there other things in the Charlie Hotch world?
When I graduated high school, gosh, no, it was pretty much skate and snow, to be honest.
Like
yeah.
That kid listening to hip-hop, baggy pants, that kind of style back then?
No, I don't know if I'd go that far. No.
Who are you then?
I think I was a little bit more put together than that, maybe, but gosh, I don't know.
If you look back and think about the group that you were in and what you looked like when you dressed to go out on a Friday night, are you wearing the big puffy tongue shoes, skate shoes, or like who were you back then? You don't have to be embarrassed or afraid to say it.
No, I'm thinking about it now. I'm reminiscing. I'm trying to think about the years. I mean, gosh, if I go all the way back, it's like the old Osiris for sure with the big tongues.
Yeah.
Old, but gosh, when I graduated high school, I wasn't the baggy clothes skater at that point because, when I was 18 graduating, I was motivated, I was pursuing a career in snowboarding at that point. And my position was certainly, again, a little bit more tight because I wasn't really the rail kid, although I made the note of being inspired by hitting big rails. Like you noted, I found my niche in getting into the backcountry and finding lines and learning how to navigate the mountains. And so keeping things kind of tight, that was more of my presentation, I would say.
Okay. And it seemed like, you were really motivated, it sounds like on the snowboard side, but you're also really motivated on the business side. So you end up going to Fort Lewis College and it's kind of close to home and you're in the mountains. Is that pretty much why you picked there?
Yeah, it was easy. I was never really too inspired to be at school. I mean, I dropped out of the fort twice. I never finished. So it was never a priority for me.
Okay. You just wanted to be in the mountains with like-minded people and that seemed like the right place to be?
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're a serial entrepreneur these days, but that started in college. And is it Big L? Is it Biggle? What was the company that you first started?
Yeah, you found Big Eye Designs. That was a decal company that I launched online. So it was like an early e-commerce business. I made decals for the back of MacBooks. I also did signage for businesses, like window decals or vehicle decals for businesses. And yeah, it was a good little business. It certainly helped pay for the snowboarding back then.
Most college kids aren't thinking, well, I'm going to create a business and that's how I'm going to fund my passion. But are you just like, hey, I'm going to invest 10 grand in a machine and then I'm going to figure out the internet and I'm going to be like one of the first online sticker guys and I'm going to kill it?
I mean, yeah, honestly, that was kind of the thinking. I mean, both my parents are entrepreneurs and I was just always entrepreneurial. I mean, I think that's really why I had the success I had in snowboarding. I mean, I was never the best snowboarder in the world, but I approached it in a very like entrepreneurial way, and I was able to provide value to businesses, provide value to these brands. I had just enough talent to get it done. So yeah, as far as the sticker thing goes, actually what ended up happening is I shattered my kneecap. I hit a rock with my knee, broke my knee, and then while I was laid up, I was like, I got to do something. And that's actually when that started. But I had been making stickers for years before that. But as far as Big Eye Designs and that e-commerce business, that actually happened while I was laid up. I just opened the computer and started that company.
So you're a student, You're an aspiring snowboarder, you're running a business, and I'm guessing you're constantly busy. Was there any time for weed and partying in college?
Not really. No, I stepped away from it at that point in a big way because it was like friends were kind of getting lost on the hard stuff, and that was never for me. And I kind of stepped away from it in a big way at that point, to be honest.
So then the focus is snowboarding, I guess, is kind of the drug. And I would think that's the most fun part of life, too. And were you traveling around kind of with your crew of dirtbags and competing on weekends while you're in college?
Yep.
I mean, what does that look like? Like 10 dudes in a hotel, all like staying up way too late, definitely not being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning, and then powering through contests and then doing it again?
Yes. Yeah, it often looked like that, but it also looked like chill nights, too. I mean, it's like these glory days of partying and, stuff you see in the videos, but, the reality is a lot of people out there trying to make a real career happen, and, like, people are taking it serious. Kids have coaches. Like, it's not like everything you see in the video parts, and a lot of that stuff is, I think, a little bit blown up.
Well, we're talking 2009 through 2012, 13, 14, and I guess there was some of that, but these days, I mean, it's obviously taken over, but you're kind of right on the bubble of you grew up with all the shit. I mean, you probably watched the whiskey videos and those videos early on, and you're like, these guys are crazy, and then it became more specialized, but you still were in that one bubble that wasn't the coached bubble. Like the big mountain area, while it's getting more coached and coached now, there are free ride programs. Back then, it was like Wild West of like 20 dudes in a hotel room. And I'm saying that you might not get enough sleep because you're 20 dudes in a hotel room.
Yeah, for sure. Those nights definitely happen.
The lifestyle for you guys back then, too. I mean, you guys grew up in the Jackass era of like wild and crazy stuff. Were there any fun, stupid moments like that you remember from the traveling days?
I'll tell you one story that was pretty rad. There was three of us sleeping in my buddy had rebuilt his Bronco into like a camper.
Okay.
And so we were all sleeping in this camper packed into this thing. I mean, this old, I don't know what year it was, this moldy old Bronco that he made into a camper. So it was like a cold morning in Idaho. We were out at the Smith compound. It was like back in the days when they had the yurt up Smiley Creek and Smith Optics was making all those videos up there. Like the Scotty Lego days kind of had his prime. So we were up there. We had been riding around with some of the team guys filming some stuff. And so there's this sweet road gap. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a famous road gap on one of the passes near Smiley Creek. And we get up, and my buddy Nick, he had been just living in this Snuggie. He's got this full one-piece like pajama set on. And I remember it was like, I don't know, it was like -8. We get up, it's super cold. He just throws his boots on with his Snuggie, just like stuffs his PJs into his boots, and then goes up to this road gap, and first try just throws down the sickest back 7 Japan you'd ever seen in your life. Like, just so insane. And then next hit, my buddy Ryan goes for a front 7 and just slams the guardrail and breaks his back in the session. And that was a crazy morning. Yeah, needless to say, I walked away from it that morning. Anyways, that was kind of a wild one.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start things out with Elan Skis. And while I could tell you all about the new award-winning Ripstick ski models or the award-winning Playmaker Twin Tip line, and then push you to demo them at your local shop because they're going to make you have more fun on the mountain, I'm just going to talk about your local shop. There's something special about stepping into your local ski shop. The smell of the freshly waxed skis, discussions about where to find the best skiing, what the shop kids like skiing on best, what they think the best products are, and that expert advice makes these shops more than just a great place to buy gear. Elan believes that ski shops are the soul of skiing, a place where skiers come together for genuine human connection, and that can't be replaced online. And I agree with them. I mean, going to a ski shop is an experience where you connect with a like-minded person who, in a short conversation, understands what you want to do and sets you up with the right gear so you can have as much fun as possible. Shops are among the last authentic pieces of ski community that we have left. So please buy your ski gear from your local ski shop. You can find a list of Elan dealers nationwide over at elanskis.com. My final sponsor this round is Stanley. It's hard to be known for both being that green bottle that kept your grandpa's coffee hot and being the most popular product in pop culture. But that's what Stanley is these days, and that's what you get when you mix in the quality that Stanley has been known for since they pretty much created the category of keeping drinks piping hot and ice cold in 1913. And lately, over 100 years later, that quality, combined with some incredible colorways, partnerships, collaboration, and events, has made Stanley bigger than ever before. And while they're creating some game-changing marketing, working with people like Olivia Rodrigo and Messi, are you kidding me? That's so cool. But what I love is how functional Stanley's products are. I personally use a Stanley pint glass every single day, and I swear by them. And my wife and so many others out there can't live without their Stanley quenchers. I mean, Stanley makes a product for everyone, and now everyone can get Stanley's incredible products in a colorway that totally suits their style, like my new Miami Vice colored pint glasses. I love my Stanley stuff, and I want you to love Stanley too. And I bet you didn't know that Stanley offers Powell Movement listeners their biggest discount that they make available to the public. That's right. I'm going to save you 30% on all of your Stanley products. Here's what you need to do. Go to stanley1913.com, go shopping, and at checkout, enter the code POWELL2025. That's a capital P and then the numbers 2025 with no spaces in there, and you're going to save that 30%. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. You're in the backcountry a lot, and where you are, close calls happen all the time. Did you have any other close calls?
I mean, there's a really interesting thing I feel inside of the snow industry in regards to the backcountry, and it's like, you know, we praise extreme effort of getting out. Like, you know, you watch the videos of guys going huge and pushing themselves to the limit and pushing the terrain to the limit and really putting their lives on the line, and that's really what gets held up on a pedestal. But, you know, the moment something goes wrong, the moment somebody's in an avalanche, the story turns so quickly, and it's, oh, you shouldn't have been there, you know, that was stupid, you know, you shouldn't have been in that situation, you should have done this, you should have done that. And it's an interesting dynamic, because when you go into the backcountry, when you're in the mountains like that, always at risk, you know, even on the safest day, things can go wrong. Yeah, I mean, things went wrong sometimes. I mean, I've been in a handful of avalanches. Luckily, I've never been buried. But I mean, things happen. And, you know, I don't know if you heard about Pashley.
Yeah, for sure.
Other guys recently. And it's just, it's brutal, you know. And shout out to Pash and everyone else who was affected in that recent loss. And it's tough. The snow space is a tough space. Not to kind of bring that on, but, you know, you were asking about close calls. And, you know, you're kind of always walking that line when you're out there.
Yeah, you know, I look at it as all of these guys, they're professionals, and on that level, you should be walking that fine line. Because I look at it like with other sports. If you look at it with football, people will complain about brain injuries and all that. Those dudes make $7 million a year or whatever it is. They can deal with that if they get them. It's an unfortunate reality of their sport. An unfortunate reality of snowboarding and skiing is death in the mountains, but nobody makes more than like 150 grand. So you can't really think the same way. But if skiers and snowboarders made $7 to $10 million a year, I would expect them to take that risk. And if they died, it would be part of the game. But it's not like that because it's totally different. I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. What do you think about all that?
I mean, no, not everybody's out there for a big paycheck. I mean, there's certainly some guys who are making some money, but the majority of them aren't. guys and girls are out there because they love it. Yeah.
I mean, no one got into this or into football or into most of these things for the money, unless they're trying to get maybe out of a social class and up to another social class. But we're skiing and snowboarding. Like, most people already come from a pretty good social class. And if you don't, it's not like you're going to use these sports to climb the ladder.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. So, we'll talk about brands and money, because we were saying that it's not about the money. But sponsorship starts for you in like 2009, I think. And does that happen through competing? Does it happen through putting together sponsor me videos, internet content? How do you land your first sponsor, and who was it?
Never Summer Snowboards was my first sponsor. That was through both. I mean, I had a sponsor me tape, and then I think I had a good placement at a contest, and I got a board, and it just started with a board. And then, I mean, gosh, that went on to be like a decade-long sponsorship, and super thankful to everything those guys did for me over the years.
And you think Never Summer, that's like a dream for any Colorado kid. I think their claim to fame is they've never blown out a sidewall or something like that. But they're very proud about being from Colorado. You got to be stoked on that. Then you also have Smith. I think you had Under Armour. I mean, did they all kind of come in those first few years? Because you did well at like a contest at Crystal Mountain in 2010. I think it was one of those North Face contests, and that's where people started talking about you. And they're like, holy shit, this kid's going to be something. Then by like 2012, you're starting to win those North Face contests. I mean, at that point, who were you competing against? Like, who are the names that we would know?
Yeah, I mean, at that Crystal Mountain event, the podium was Forrest Berkey, Blair Habenick, me, Lucas DeBari. Those contests were pretty cool back in the day. I mean, Travis Rice competed a couple of times, Mark Carter. It was always a pretty good lineup of guys out at those events.
And you won a couple of those, right?
One of them. I won one of them.
What was it, Kirkwood or something like that?
Kirkwood. Yeah, Kirkwood. Yeah, it was tough. I was fourth in the U.S. that year because I kind of had a bad run in snowboard at the last event. I was in first place on the tour going into that event. I kind of had a bad showing. And then that was the first year that the Freeride World Tour dropped from the top 5 to the top 3. And so I became the bubble boy and missed the World Tour by one spot. But that was really the transition moment, because that was the summer when I knew I wasn't going to make the World Tour. That was when the shift really happened, and I was like, okay, I got to start focusing on something else. And that's when we started Eyce.
Well, pre-Eyce, I mean, when you think about your best year in snowboarding, how much is the most you're able to make in the best year?
Well, I didn't make much money. I don't know.
Like
I think
10
I made
grand,
maybe
20
like
grand?
10 grand. Yeah, 10, 15 grand. I had like bonuses for podium placements, and I got bonuses for magazine placements. And then I got like $500 a month. And then I'd sell the gear to get by. But, you know, I mean, I made very little money.
Did you get some travel?
Yeah, we get travel on like a project by project basis. So I would just basically put together like project proposals and be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like I said, I'd approach it kind of entrepreneurially. So I'd put together a little mini model essentially of like, look, you guys put in this much. This is how much content you're going to get back. We're going to have Snowboard Mag involved, or this or that, or Snowboard Colorado. And, you know, this is what we're going to produce, and this is what you'll get out of it. So yeah, I'd get travel budgets for specific things, but not like a tour budget so much.
Okay, so between your travel budget and then Big Eye Design and then the snowboard money, you were able to do all right, right?
I mean, I was able to get out there and go snowboarding every day. Yeah, put gas in the snowmobile.
So you were getting out sledding and doing it all at that point while you're like a junior and senior in college.
Yeah.
Most kids don't have that kind of money coming in through their design agency, which is pretty amazing. So when school's done, and then it's just Big Eye and just snowboarding, are you able to go on like 10 different snowboard trips a year? And do you do like the South America in the summer? Or is it like you're saving up for like 2 or 3 projects and hoping to make it happen?
No, I would do like 10 or more trips for sure. Because, you know, I do the whole North Face Masters tour, and then we would do AK, we do Canada. I mean, I was kind of just on the road, really, like living out of my truck a lot of the time too. You know, sleeping on buddies' couches. And I don't know, man. I kind of figured out a way to make it happen one way or another. You know, I mean, I remember flying down to South America with like $150 in my pocket, just like, oh, I'm gonna figure this out. Literally got off the plane, paid like the like whatever tax you had to pay to get into the country,
yep,
and bought a bus ticket down to Bariloche, and I was literally had enough money for a pizza, and I had no more money. Like, luckily, the SAS guys, Skylar Holgate and that whole crew down there, like, luckily they were cool enough to, like, give us a room. And, I mean, we were literally doing whatever we could, man, to get by.
You were the dirtbag snowboarders. When I'm thinking that you're
100%.
like raking in money and stuff like that, you're not doing well at all. You're barely getting by. And when an ad comes out and you're in it, you're like just fucking stoked, like I did it.
Yeah, 100%.
What was the first time you were in print? Do you remember that?
I think it was Snowboard Mag. I don't remember exactly the first time. I had a few Never Summer ads that were across all the mags, like when Transworld was still around, which is crazy that Transworld's not around anymore.
I know.
But yeah, print, man.
You get any covers?
Couple covers. Yeah, I had a cover of Snow Style Japan. Had a cover of Snowboard Colorado. That's it for covers.
I mean, that's pretty
But
sick.
I'll take it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, man.
I'll take it.
And I mean, I don't know how big the Japanese one is, but I know the Snowboard Colorado was an important magazine at one point. I don't even know if it's around anymore. They probably have a website.
Yeah, it's not anymore. It was super cool at the time. I was actually really stoked to get that cover. The Snow Style Japan was cool. That was a big mag over there for quite some time. I don't think they're around anymore either, though.
Well, Prince has suffered many deaths over, but there is Slush and there is Mountain Gazette, and there are some great ones out there. There's not many, unfortunately, but they're shooting photos, which you talked about, covers and stuff like that, but then there's video parts. And was it Never Summer that you filmed for predominantly?
Yeah, predominantly. You know, probably the biggest weak point for me is I never really put together a video part that I was truly proud of, but I had a few. I think I was in 3 of the Never Summer videos, the team videos, maybe 4. Can't remember. I'd have to look back. God, it feels like so long ago now. It's like over a decade ago.
I know, but it's fun to reminisce.
It is.
But when you think about what you like the most, I mean, you're traveling the world and you're competing a bunch, but you're also filming. I mean, what's more fun to you? Is the hurry up and wait of filming fun, or is the adrenaline and the I need to nail my line right here because I have one shot more fun for you?
I really enjoyed those North Face Masters contests, to be honest. Those were some really good times. It was always just great camaraderie. I liked the competitive aspect. You know, I really felt like something. But getting out there and like getting a great photo, you know, getting the light just right, the photographer's in the right spot, the timing's right, everything comes together. That's pretty fun stuff too. And honestly, like, I still enjoy that. I still enjoy getting in the backcountry and making art with friends, for sure.
And are you still able to ride a lot with what you do now? Because now it seems like maybe you're not chained to a desk, but you have a lot of things going on. And are you still able to ride a lot?
Not really. No. But when I get out, I do it right and get out with good people. Just got a new turbo too, actually. Stoked on that. But no, I don't get to ride too much.
So you have all the toys, but you don't get to use them as much as you would like. But back when you did, based on the way that you look at terrain and you can read terrain, that Alaska's the dream and you're frothing to get there. When you first go and see the mountains of Alaska for the first time, is it intimidating or is it exciting, or what's the mentality of that for you?
God, it's incredibly intimidating. I mean, my first run in Alaska was on Meteorite.
Okay.
And if you know Valdez and the Big Five and some of the famous peaks up there, Meteorite it's up there. It's one of the 5 kind of icons. And I mean, if you're in front of your computer, if you don't know the mountain.
No, I know what you're talking about for sure.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, I just hit the Valdez jackpot. I was up there with my buddy Ryan Cruz, and he happened to know a dude who was working for the heli-op, and long story short, they had 2 seats open. We happened to get them. We had the right recommendation. The guide was like, all right, fine, we'll let these guys come with us. And dude, I remember the bird was coming in. We're down in the parking lot, and I look over at Ryan. I'm like, dude, are you sure about this? Like, oh, fuck, do we have this? And he's like, yeah, dude, we got it. I'm like, all right. And God, I'll never forget being dropped off on top of Meteorite. Never ridden an Alaska run before. My mind was like exploding.
I mean, everybody talks about that blind rollover factor too. How intimidating was that?
It was incredibly intimidating. I kind of regret not riding the spine now, looking back at it, because I took like the kind of choke entrance just out onto the main flank. But yeah, I kind of regret not just getting out on that spine and hanging it out there. But being that it was my first run and I was buzzing, I was like, I'm going to go where I'm not hanging over a 2,000 foot cliff, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Alaska's incredible.
Thinking about when it's not incredible, do you ever go down in Alaska and have one of those tomahawk-like falls that you've seen in like every video?
Luckily, no, not in Alaska. I have not done that.
Good. Where was your fall where you're thinking of?
Out at Sheepshead on Montezuma. I've done it twice on that face where I've just tomahawked the whole way down. Yeah, trying not to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, especially as you get older. In thinking about it, you were talking about after that year that the Freeride World Tour created that bubble that you didn't make and you didn't get into the Freeride World Tour. Is that really what stops your pro snowboard career? It's like you're going to go with plan B that you know is going to maybe have a future for you a little bit more than snowboarding? Or was there injury, or does it just end because you want it to end?
It was a combination of all those things. Like, I had hurt my knee a few years prior. And then, yeah, I kind of just had an urge to do a little bit more because I kind of felt like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as what I was doing in snowboarding, and that it was time to try and move on to the next stage. And I was always interested in product. You know, you brought up like the Big Eye Designs, the sticker business that I did, which that business, I was also doing retail products. So I would make decals and I'd sell them into store. I'd package them and sell them into stores. And through snowboarding, you'd get product, you'd get goggles, you'd get the next year's snowboard or jacket, and you'd test it and you provide feedback. And, you know, that process of kind of ideation and R&D and testing and seeing new products, you know, before they're on the market was always something that was super intriguing to me. And my brother is a mechanical engineer. And, you know, it's just kind of serendipitous that it kind of came together and we decided to start Eyce.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and this time I'm starting out with Outdoor Research. I've been using OR products since I moved to Seattle almost 25 years ago because they outperform everything on the market. I mean, they build products to perform in the miserable weather that the Pacific Northwest can be known for. And when you live here, you need to have best-in-class gear, and that's what OR has always delivered. From building industry-leading gear for mountaineers, which are still best in class, to the mittens that every snowboarder wore in the 90s, which are making a comeback in a big way, to the new styles, cuts, fits, and kits that they've developed with the help of their incredible athlete roster that includes world champion Troy Podmilsack, freeski legend Mark Abma, and X Games gold medalist Zoe Atkin, just to name a few. While OR has always been building the best products to outperform everything else in brutal wet weather, the recent focus on style is what has not only me, but my kid and his friends all wanting to wear OR gear. Because now, it looks as good as it performs, and that's a bold statement. But don't take it from me. Head on over to outdoorresearch.com, check out the products, buy yourself something, and stay drier and warmer than ever before. My final sponsor is Best Day Brewing. And if you haven't heard of Best Day, they are hands down the best tasting NA beer on the market. I enjoy Best Day for so many reasons. The flavor is the most important. I swear by the hazy IPA, the Kolsch, and the Electro Lime. The beauty of Best Day is that it really tastes as good or better than an alcoholic beer. I mean, in a blind taste test, if I put an Electro Lime against any Mexican beer, 9 out of 10 times, my friends are going to pick the Electro Lime because they like it better. And you can drink a few of them at the bar or in the parking lot after skiing, and you don't have to worry about driving or making bad decisions. Really, I haven't quit drinking. When I go to the bar to have beers, I always mix in a few Best Days with the leaded stuff, so I can be more functional throughout the night, and an added benefit that I didn't expect was it makes me last twice as long. I mean, I can stay till closing time. I don't know what you were thinking, but if you want to have your best day or night ever, or just want to enjoy a few cold ones anywhere, grab a Best Day and you can forget about the calories, forget about the alcohol, and forget about getting in trouble on the way home. To see all the flavors and order some beer, head on over to bestday.com, and if you're flying on Alaska, you can enjoy a Best Day Kolsch at 30,000 feet. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. What is Eyce?
Eyce is a silicone cannabis pipe company. So we make the best in the world, the best silicone pipes in the world.
And what was your first product?
First product was actually a mold that made a bong made out of ice. So like those shot glasses that you can fill. basically like a reverse mold that you fill with water and freeze it and make a water pipe totally out of ice.
And then you can use it for like an hour and then you do it again?
Essentially, yeah, or you use it and put it back in the freezer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That product didn't exist before, and when like you go to head shops and you figure out kind of a distribution plan, are you guys printing money right away? Like, holy shit, this thing costs cents, or no?
No, it took years. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you're never, I don't know, man. It's so hard to print money.
Well, it seemed like you had a great idea.
We did have a great idea, but you still got to grind. You still got to put in the time. You still got to overcome so many challenges. You know, freight gets lost. You know, things happen, and you still have to overcome those challenges on a daily basis. You know, cash flow, an employee quits. There's always something. And no, it was a complete grind. I mean, the water pipe mold was cool, but it was novelty. You know, it wasn't something customers were coming back for time after time after time. So it was very cool. It still has its place, but it's novelty. And so it was very much a relationship building phase at that point. You know, it was getting ourselves out there, building relationships with the customers, with the store owners, with the distributors, and putting ourselves in a position so that when we had that next great idea, the next great product, we were already positioned to actually start scaling and making money. And that was luckily what we did.
So the next product is the actual silicone pipe itself?
Yeah, we made the silicone dab rig. It was our first all silicone silhouette. And then from there, we just built out a full line of hand pipes and bubblers and bongs and everything in between. And they became very popular. You know, I think at our peak, we were at about 4,500 retailers across the U.S.
Dang.
Yeah, it was, and again, still is. I mean, we still make incredible pipes. A few years ago, we came out with our Oriflex line, which I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see that, but it's really cool. We invented a manufacturing process for making silicone pipes that actually look like hand-blown glass. Every one is hand-painted. They're a dual-layer silicone. They're incredible. They're just aesthetically jaw-dropping. They're the most aesthetically impressive silicone products, I think, in the world.
All right, well, there's some plastic surgeons that may argue that, but we're not going to talk about those guys. But when I think about your business, and it's not your business, but I'm going to say that you are the overarching knowledge of the marijuana business on this podcast because you are, because I don't know anything about it other than being a consumer. But when you think about it, we've said that it's two different businesses, hard goods and soft goods. And I would think that like the hard goods that you're more vendors and you're selling products. And then the weed businesses like the growers and stuff like that, they're more fun in a beer company type way. Is that fair to say? Like they throw parties and do different stuff where you're just selling your product?
You know, it's funny. I'd say that the actual material, the plant space is much more suit and ties.
Huh.
Yeah, the hard goods is much more of the party space and the celebrities and all that sort of stuff is really in the head shop space and in the hard goods space. Yeah, the plant touching side is, because I think that there's something to prove on that side, and so there's just this level of almost like overcompensating professionalism in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Okay. I understand that. I mean, I can see that because it is on the fringe for so long that they have to prove it, like you said. And then I did hear stories back in the day about big tobacco getting into the weed game. Did that ever happen?
No, not really. I mean, not that I'm too knowledgeable of.
Dude, you know what I've seen lately is PBR has like weed beer in weed stores. I don't know if it's weed beer, but it's a weed drink and it's Pabst Blue Ribbon. Yeah,
I mean, the THC-infused drinks are becoming more and more popular, that's for sure. There's certainly more and more of them making them to mass retail. Seth Rogen just launched Houseplant as like a soda water drink. I don't know in what stores, but I know that he's getting some end caps, and I'd say that the beverage category is definitely growing fast.
What are the other categories in the business that you see growing?
Disposables are huge. I think that quality vaporizers will always have its place, and that's also something that I'm also an owner in DaVinci Vaporizers, and DaVinci is some of the highest end dryer vaporizers on the market, and we have some incredible devices coming out this year that are going to be mind-blowing.
When you say vaporizers, are they cartridges or are they like flower in like the pyramid type thing?
No, we don't do any closed systems. Yeah, we do like open end vaporizers, so like oven style. for dry herb.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I remember I used to have one back in like 2003 or 4 that had like a bag, and that you'd fill it up with that. But that kind of style of one where you put actual flour in it.
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. Not like a convection like you're describing where you blow hot air through it.
Okay.
Ours is more like a hot oven.
Okay.
So, yeah, exact. So it's a different type of extraction.
And when you think about what you do now, I mean, like your company, you and your brother were able to grow this thing. How big did you grow Eyce in its prime?
I mean, like I said, it was about 4,500 retailers across the U.S. We sold, probably getting close to a few million units now. It's certainly well over 1 million units. Pretty big business.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a few million units, your average price point's probably, what, $19.99 or something like that?
Yeah, a little bit more than that, yeah.
But $29.99, you've sold a few million units. You've done pretty well. You're taking your mom to Italy, your dad to Africa. You're doing all the things you want that you couldn't do snowboarding because there's no snowboarders that can make money like you can make, I would think, in the marijuana space other than Travis Rice. But you sell the brand. Were you planning on selling it? Does someone court you and say, hey, we want to buy from you? How does that happen? Because it seems like you and your brother have built this empire. Why would you want to get out of it?
Well, it wasn't so much that we wanted to get out of it. It was that when you get business to a certain scale, you have relationships that you've fostered over that time. And this was just a particular relationship where it made sense for us to join forces. And, that's really what we did. I mean, ultimately, we sold all of our equity, but it was for the goal of a larger purpose, which was to build that next business into something even bigger.
But at the end of the day, didn't you and your brother buy it back for a lot less than you sold it for?
We did buy it back, so that journey didn't quite play out like we had intended. And ultimately, the acquirer had kind of decided to take some different business strategies, and that presented an opportunity for us to buy it back. And we did. And Bruce and I partnered up with Courtney Smith and Chantel Ludwig, and we did buy Eyce back. Yeah.
Is it one of those things where it's like you sold and you and Bruce are like, holy shit, I never thought we'd have this kind of money. We were able to really build this brand. It's incredible. And we're still working for it. We're still going to build it and it's going to be great or whatever. But then you have the chance to buy it back and it's like, holy shit, we just got what we sold for this. And it's like, we're back, baby.
Well, yeah, kind of. But, it's not quite all roses and daisies like, you're kind of making it sound right now. It's a bit more complex than that. And, can't really get into those types of details. But, no, it's not quite like that. But, yeah, I mean, look, we were able to exit the business at a healthy time. And the opportunity to buy it back, I mean, did I ever think that I would own it again? No. Is there a new opportunity ahead of us? Yes. And we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, it sounds like now you've got your hands in a bunch of different things. I mean, but I was looking at it's like Synergy Innovation, there's Hoch Brands, there's the vaporizer, your Da Vinci vaporizers you were talking about. I mean, how many different products are you involved in right now?
I mean, our IP portfolio is sitting around like 230 patents and trademarks. I mean, I think that we've probably, a lot of different brands and products. There's really 4 core brands, which is our tack strap, which is a cargo and bungee cord brand. And then we do Staple, which is a truck rack company, Eyce and Da Vinci. Gosh, across all of them, I don't even know. It's a lot of SKUs, probably over 100.
And in terms of what we're here to talk about, being it's 420, it doesn't sound like you're the biggest pothead, unfortunately, for this podcast, because we wanted you to be total burnout who's talking, yeah, man, it's like we built up ice because we like making these bongs out of ice, but that's not you, and that's okay, because we've gone a different direction in the podcast. But product innovation-wise, I mean, do you partake and do you innovate in the product space, or are you totally hands-off and more of just kind of a businessman with it now?
No, I mean, look, I think that we have a goal to make the best cannabis consumption products in the world. And that does come with understanding the customer experience. And so I wouldn't say that I don't smoke weed because I certainly do. But am I some pothead? No. I've got too much on my plate. I'm a dad. I just don't smoke weed every day. But I absolutely do smoke weed and I absolutely do product test. And I still enjoy it.
That's what I was more wondering. Yeah. Because if you don't use the product, but you're just selling the product to a bunch of potheads, It's like you're profiting off potheads, but you don't even smoke pot. It would be like a Mormon guy selling beer. It just wouldn't make sense to me. But you do it and you sell it. So you're not only the maker, you're also a member. I appreciate that. And really, that's our podcast. But like I said, I was hoping you would be way more of a stoner than you are, but you're more of an entrepreneur. So we can't really talk about you smoking weed with Snoop Dogg and shit like that. But what we did talk about...
I mean, we could. I mean, I've smoked weed with Cheech and Chong.
This is great.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've had my time, and I do love cannabis, and cannabis has been a huge part of my life. There's no questioning that. You know, it's just that my relationship with cannabis is just a little bit different than it was 10 years ago. But no, I mean, I think that, you know, it's a special plant, and I think that it's going to continue to be hopefully something that continues to develop. Gosh, I don't even know where I was going with that at the end.
Well,
you know, yeah.
It's all right. Well, I'm going to steer you in another direction then, so you don't know where you're going with the end of that. But like you were saying, you are responsible, you are a professional, and you're an entrepreneur. We know that you're not a pothead. But then you said Cheech and Chong and other things. That's the thing is, you get to experience weed or cannabis and everything around it in a different way than everybody else because of your position and what you've done with your career. So while I have access to talk to a lot of people because I have a podcast, you have access to smoke weed with a ton of people, it sounds like, or to send weed products to people. And so there's Cheech and Chong. Who else is on your list?
I don't know. I mean, those guys are certainly a highlight, smoking weed backstage with them. Just the three of us. But Redman, who else? I don't even know right now, but those are two big ones right there.
All right, well, we will take those. That's not the end of the podcast completely, though, because I end every podcast with something that I call inappropriate questions. Usually I get someone that you know to ask 3 questions. I was going to do that tomorrow. We moved the podcast up to today because you have a trip to Africa that you need to be prepared for, and your family was worried that you wouldn't be prepared, so they made you do the podcast tonight. You're going to get your inappropriate questions from me, unfortunately, but I put a couple together, or I put 3 together. So we'll start out with, what is the most ridiculous weed apparatus or contraption that you've ever seen or smoked out of?
The Eyce bong, man. Come on.
Okay. The Eyce bong is obviously in its own category.
I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
I'm sticking with it.
All right. Yep. We'll go with the Eyce bong. What is the wildest way you've seen one of your pipes used on the internet or in real life?
Gosh. I don't know. Do you have a good one for that? Have you seen something weird on the internet?
I'm sure we could go into youporn.com and we could type silicone pipes and we could see something, but I haven't done that.
Sure. Yeah, I haven't done that either. So we'll leave that one to the internet.
All right. And he's going to pass on another one. And I guess, what's the story that you can share of you having too much, whether it's in the snowboard world or whatever, where everybody's like, dude, you need to go to bed. And then you wake up the next morning and you're like, man, that was embarrassing. What's that story? Everybody's got one.
I don't know. I mean, I try not to get into those situations.
Okay. We've got to end with one good answer to a semi-inappropriate question. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
So you traveled the world with snowboarders, and anything can happen on the road. What was the worst ever that you experienced, we're going to get kicked out of here moment?
Gosh, one time we were at a bar and things got a little out of hand with some peanuts. And we got thrown right out of that old damn bar.
All right, so not the most detailed, inappropriate question answer, but you know what? We're going to live with that. That's our 3 right there. That's our podcast. And really, your life has been pretty interesting because it starts in Florida, but then you go from Florida to Colorado. Nothing really starts you on a snowboard until really late, and you're able to become a pro snowboarder. When you start at 13, 14, most people will never even get close to where you got. So being able to kind of cobble that together, because that's what you're able to do. You're able to cobble together a snowboard career that got you to travel the world, got you to compete in some big contests. And it was like a plan B that you were able to do until you had to do plan A, which is you being an entrepreneur. And you and your brother have crushed everything that you've done. And it'll be interesting to see what else that you do. I want to get a free one of everything that you're doing because I'm a big fan of all your products. I thank you for the samples that you sent me already. And I appreciate your time and telling your story.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for the time.
So that was time with Charlie Hoch. And what a different type of story for this podcast. Most of the athletes I have on the show have these prolific pro careers, but not everyone can be in the top % of the athletes in their sport. And that was Charlie Hoch, a dude with enough talent to get sponsored, a dude with enough business acumen to keep those relationships going, and a guy who always had someone bigger going on behind the scenes than snowboarding. So he had like a 10-year pro career, but he was always doing something else, and he always knew that he was going to be an entrepreneur, and it's a cool industry that he jumped into the cannabis business, and I'm sure that's only going to keep growing for them. So that's the story of Charlie Hoch, and when you think about it, at the end of his life and times, when he looks back on all the different things he did in his life, pro snowboarding isn't going to be the thing that he hangs his hat on. It's just going to be one little blip in the journey that he's gone on throughout his life, and that's a pretty cool thing. So that's the podcast. I want to thank you for listening. I want to ask you to subscribe wherever you listen, and I want to ask you to support the amazing brands that make this show happen. They are Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Stanley, and Best Day Brewing. Have a great week, everyone.